now available in paperback and e-readers. Spellbound, a darker shade of black. Get your copy today at your favorite online bookseller. In a previous video, I discussed commercialism in the goth subculture, and I wanted to talk about in this video about the dark side of commercialism. As an African American, I can tell you about the dark side of commercialism because I've seen it presented in many forms of media related to the image of the African American in America. And I don't want to see that type of negativity put into the goth subculture with all these people coming to different YouTubers looking to advertise products and some sort of push to try to commercialize the goth subculture. Because whenever you have groups of companies going out to solicit a group of people for advertising, they are looking to create an image in the minds of the general public. And when it comes down to many of these companies, they really don't care about what that image is as long as it sells products to people. And as long as they can sell as many products to most of the general public, they really don't focus on whether that image is a positive image of someone or a negative image of someone. All most advertisers want to do is get your attention, and they're not thinking about the long-term impact of certain images and certain themes and certain narratives in media as it relates to people's cultures. Because for them, they want to sell products and they want to package a product to sell to the most people in the general public. And again, that can be very destructive to the overall goth subculture and the future of the goth subculture, because what's going to happen is this leads to people trying to compartmentalize the gothic subculture by talking about different groups, such as a pastel goth is different from a new goth, or a Victorian romantic is different from a traditional, and a punk is different from, a rivet head. And what they want to do is, again, put people in boxes so they can create products to appeal to the general public and tell them that this is supposed to be what goth is. And again, what that is creating a stereotype. And stereotypes are extremely bad for any group of people. I know from experiences as being an African American how bad stereotypes truly are, because a stereotype is somebody's idea of what someone is, what somebody thinks somebody is, and not based on anything based on facts or truth. I mean, in order to get to know a subculture or a group of people in a subculture, you have to go and talk to them, you have to get to know them, and you have to interact with people to really understand what their culture is and what that culture is about. And when it comes down to a lot of advertisers, some of them do not have the best interests of the subculture at heart. There are some who have goth businesses who really are passionate about the goth subculture and want to present a positive image of the subculture. And yes, it's great to see those companies, but then there are other companies that aren't as ethical. And these are the ones people in the goth subculture really need to watch out for, because this is the type of company that will go out of its way to produce products and then try to get goth YouTubers to sell them that promote ideas and stereotypes about goths that are detrimental to the subculture. And the subculture does not really need people presenting, negative images of it, because when you have people presenting negative images of it, what that does is it puts an idea in people's minds that pretty much makes them see goths as something bad, when all the goth subculture is doing is a celebration of dark things, and the dark aesthetic, and that's all the overall platform is. But a lot of these companies, again, they're not thinking about things from that perspective. They're just thinking, we want to make some money, we want to get some attention for our products, but they're not thinking about the overall impact of things on the subculture. And I can give you a parallel example of this with the hip-hop music industry. Now, back in the early days of hip-hop, you had different rap groups, different rap styles, and what happened was when white Hollywood came in and came into the black community to commercialize hip-hop, instead of us getting that richness and diversity in hip-hop, and seeing all these different stories and different styles of hip hop being told, it became a caricature of itself, and all we got to see was, one person's interpretation of hip hop and one narrative regarding hip hop, and from there, the early '90s on, we started seeing everything from the lens of these white liberals who came at us and saying we want to produce everything based on this whole gangster rap thing, and from there, that's all we've seen for the last 20 years. We have not seen the rich diversity that I grew up in the 1980s regarding hip hop, where we got to see comedy raps, we got to see lyricists like Rakim, we got to see storytellers like Cool G Rap, and we got to see, political rappers like Public Enemy. All those rappers pretty much, their music was silenced because the commercial people in Hollywood came in and wanted to push their narrative and present hip hop from their view. And I would hate to see that happen to the goth subculture, because it's a very rich culture, it's a very diverse subculture. And, commercialism can come in and they'll try to put everything into one box and then tell you that this is goth, when the people who have experienced the subculture will tell you a completely different story and tell you about, how rich this subculture is, how different the experiences are, and how no two goths are alike. And what commercialism does is it wants to make everybody the same and fit into one box. And that's something that, every goth should be fighting against. Yes, you want to see more product endorsements and more support like that, but you don't want to see, the whole things turn dark like it did with hip hop, and see the whole subculture turn into a caricature of itself. Because what happened with hip hop is it's a caricature of itself. It's a pale shadow of what it was, back in the mid 80s and early 80s when it first came out. It's a pale shadow of itself compared to what it is now. And then what goth is that it was in the 90s it was an amazing thing, and in the 80s was an amazing thing. But in the 21st century, you have some people who are saying that goth is dead. Then you have others who don't see how alive it is and how we're at a critical stage in the subculture where, it's where it's a turning point, and that's what I see here with commercialism. This could be a major turning point towards the mainstream, but there's a big trade-off to it because there's a whole dark side to it related to the subculture not being as rich as it was and it being turned into a caricature. And I really don't want to see it turned into a caricature the way hip-hop was turned into a caricature of itself, because hip-hop today is a joke, and there is no heart to it, there is no soul to it, there is no inspiration to it, there is no creativity. And that's what makes goth really great, is how creative everybody is, how inspired everybody is, and how unique everyone is in, presenting everything in their own style and in their own way. And that's something I enjoy seeing, and that's something that inspires me to create, and that's something I want to see, continue to be preserved. Because, yes, it's good that we're getting some commercial products and people selling products to goths, and there's attention being paid, but there has to be an effort to preserve the subculture, the roots of it, the core of it, and make sure that it stays true to itself so that others can enjoy it and share it and see what's so special about it. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.